All right, today is Monday, November 30th, and we are starting week 2 talking about the characteristics of life. So, our essential question for this week is how do you know if something is living? Our learning target I can learn the methods of showing my learning over a week using an EQ tracker. Your vocabulary words for today are right there, and we're going to go through that throughout this lesson. All right, so if you missed class, obviously, hopefully you are watching this video. I'm going to attach this and other videos in the future to this yellow, bright yellow slide and drop it in somewhere on the slide. These are all the things that we did today, and let's get started. So EQ, as I always say, stands for essential question, which is the question that guides our learning throughout the week. We examine the question through discussion, videos, notes, readings, labs, experiments. And at the end of the week, we answer the revised question. And then EQs are numbered by unit and ordered like this. So unit 1, EQ question number 1, which is where we are today. Next week will be EQ 1.2 because that'll be our second question for unit 1. And we use this model called the RRR model. And basically what it stands for is the first thing that we do at the beginning of the week is we start with our initial ideas. Our initial ideas are just brainstorming, and there's no right or wrong answer, just trying to apply some previous knowledge to the question. And then throughout the week, through lectures, labs, activities, all that whatnot, we answer refined questions. And you are able to, of course, use all of these different activities and resources to help you answer these questions. At the end of the week, we answer the big EQ from the beginning of the week using the claim, evidence, and reasoning formats. And then on our EQ checks, we reflect and compare our understanding at the beginning of the week to our understanding at the end of the week. So types of assignments for each EQ, we have the EQ tracker. So this is always under our slide. So if I'm going to use 6 periods, Google Classroom, always go to this classwork tab, all right? Weekly slides are always listed as 0, and then 1 is always our EQ tracker. So when you open it up, you will see, I have one opened up right here. Oh, they both aren't loading. Oh, here we go. So you'll see that it is broken up day by day for you, and the slides that I use do refer back to these different things. So today is Monday, so we will be focusing on this area. Okay. So first thing is the EQ trackers. You should have them opened at the beginning of class just because that'll just save you some time so you can answer the questions as we go. And then we start with the initial ideas. We work on the refined questions as well as word part practice. Haven't done those yet. We'll do those later on. And then the revised paragraph. At the end of the week, you have the EQ checks, which is a quiz assignment that have some multiple choice answers and your revised question as well as your reflection questions. So all of these questions and things refers back to your EQ tracker. So it is wise if you do your EQ tracker first, and then you can use it on your EQ checks. You can even just copy and paste your revised question from the EQ tracker to the EQ check. Remember, work smarter, not harder. And then for your grade for this class, mostly 50% of the grade is from the EQ checks, and then the trackers are about 10% of your grade. And then if you are a type of person who likes to write things down on the notebook, you don't have to do it twice. If you would like to just write it on the notebook and take a picture of it and send it to me, that can be your EQ tracker. You don't have to do the work twice. Okay. So biology is the science of life. Our first question is, how do you know if something is living? So in class, what we did where we brainstormed some prompts, thinking of a living thing, what makes it living versus not, what do all living things have, what can all living things do, sentence starters, so all living things have, and then it's very, very important that you realize that this is the first part of the EQ tracker. So those of you who are doing this at home and not in class, go back to your EQ tracker and answer these brainstorm prompts in this area that's for initial ideas. Okay. So once you do that, we are going to skip because you obviously are not going to be in the breakout room, and we are going to start talking about GROCHER. So GROCHER is the acronym that we use to explain the different characteristics of life. G stands for growth, R is for reproduction, O is for organize, C for code, E for energy, and the last R, or the second R, is response to change. So all living things can grow. So from turning into an egg to a caterpillar, chrysalis, and then a butterfly, and then can reproduce. So we have two types of reproduction, asexual and sexual. Bottom line is they have the ability to make offspring. All living things are organized, which means that they are organized into cells as the basic building blocks of life that creates greater complexity. They have a code, which is DNA, that gives instructions and controls the functions of the cells. All living things need energy. So all living things require an energy source, whether it's food, sunlight, whatever it is, they need something to fuel their movements and functions. And then the last thing is they need to be able to respond to change. So the first type is they can respond to an internal or external change by making short-term changes to the state called homeostasis. We'll talk about this more a little bit later. But homeostasis is when the body is in a natural state of stability. And then long-term changes over generations, which has to do with adaptation and evolution. And then you are going to go back into your EQ tracker at this point to answer the refined question number 1, which is which characteristic of life, so GROCHER, is this? So my question is centered around all living things have DNA in their cells that tell the cell how to operate. Again, all living things have DNA in their cells that tell the cell how to operate. So what is this an example of? Is it an example of G for growth, R for reproduction, O for organize, C for code, E for energy, or R response to change? You can go back into the slides or go back in the video where I'm going through what the different things means to answer it, and there is a sentence frame to help you with this. So all living things have DNA in their cells refers to the blank, and GROCHER meaning blank. So you want to make sure that you answer this. This is refined question number 1. And then our task for today is just answering your tracker all the way to refined question number 1. In Google Classroom, I asked a question of the day, which is just who are you comfortable working with in class? And if you have not done these different things yet, please make sure you do that because I am going to start putting things into the gradebook. And as always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. And that's all. Have a great day.